founder of Tick Talent, sales guy gone rogue and bad, that's my words, not his, and author of the Dream 20 ICP Step Playbook to Finding Your Best Job Ever. No, that's not really what we're aiming for. We're trying to find, attract, create the ideal next role in our lives. Richard Washington, thank you very much. Welcome to the Leadership That Sells podcast, where we help you lead first and sell more with great insights and tactics from the best minds we can find. Every leader is in sales, whether you're selling products, ideas, a mission or a vision, and great sales team in particular need great sales leaders. When managers bring out the best in their teams, targets get hit on time every time without stress. But most sales leaders never learn how to lead. They wing it or they repeat bad habits and the cycle continues. Sales leaders need practical, real-world ideas that fit their busy schedules, and that's why we created the Leadership That Sells Playbook course. 9 short weeks changes your world. Check it out at the Practical Leadership Academy. And now, on with the show. Indeed for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Paul.
So I already started off on the wrong foot. What is it you actually do?
So, yes, it's been a journey of discovery to reach the point where I could answer that question succinctly. So what I do is I find entrepreneurial executives, managers, and sellers for early stage tech startups.
There you go. That's taken a lot of work.
It has taken a lot of work.
I mean, I as somebody who's done this several times, getting to the point where I find intrapreneurial, which means something very specific, executives, founders for early stage tech startups. That sort of precision and niching down, that's like, what, 18 months, 2 years worth of work? Just to get done?
It's taken 18 months. Yeah, exactly.
Nuts, isn't it? Absolutely nuts. I mean, it pisses me off mightily how much gibberish and shite I came out with. Say, starting, I serve anybody and everybody, but nobody. And then and you really, 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 really have to have the courage to niche it right the way down.
Sure.
And the tenacity to just keep plugging away at trying to find that right. Your ICP.
Sure.
That hook. Because if you're trying to be everything for everyone, you're nothing for no one, right?
Well, this is it. You have to put it in the perspective of the customers. I think that everyone always talks about it. I find this fascinating. If you look at most people's LinkedIn headlines, it always starts with, I help, founders, or I help executives. That's your first 5 words. Like, I help executives to something. And when you're connecting with someone on LinkedIn, you see the first 5 words of their headline. You've wasted it because everyone says the same. And it's like, who you help isn't really important. It's like, what do you do? People will need to know what you do for them in their language in a way that resonates with them. And I think that a lot of people would just get that wrong, myself included. My first headline was, it's about time. Like this Saatchi and Saatchi, very clever,
Just
time's innovated. It's also about protecting your time. 0 inbound leads. And it was only really and it was pretty funny, like the clue, what I find really fascinating about the subject, Paul, is that the clues around like the reason you started and the change you're trying to make in the world are always there. First podcast that I ever did with my good friend Tolly on our own podcast, we talked about this message around we're doing this because we love entrepreneurs. We were entrepreneurs ourselves. We both spent 12 years in companies progressing inside a business and building. So we knew that that's what we wanted to focus on in terms of our content and our relationships. But it took me that long to realize that is exactly what people need. So therefore, aligning the message to what we actually believe and what we do every day and what we talk about and where our passions are is, of course, what we should say. But it took us a long time to get to that point.
There's a lovely line from, and I wish I could remember the guy's name. He was the German Minister of Trade years and years ago. And he said, if you want to, I'm not going to do a German accent, if you want to buy from Germany, you can speak any language you want. If you want to sell to Germany, da müssen Sie Deutsch sprechen, ja. Okay, that's profound. It's like you got to speak the lingo. You got to speak the language of the person that you're trying to sell something to, whether that's your idea, whether that's you, as we'll get on to talking about, I'm sure, or whatever you're trying to do, persuading people, even your kid trying to get my daughter's 13, and last night we had the town fair, the Christmas fair, and she was asking if she can get out later, first time ever, dark. It's dark at like 5, but this was 8 o'clock, and she didn't want to come home until like 8:45, and I'm thinking, okay, but she sold me on it,
Yeah.
She sold me on it because sneaky little sausage. She's been listening to me. I'm surrounded by books on influence and selling and persuasion and all that. I studied hypnosis and things, and that's all about getting into the brain and helping somebody else accept your message like a jigsaw piece, just dropping it in place. So it's a beautiful thing. So you've got this beautifully succinct ICP. Now we went off to them. The actual thing, we went all meta on it.
Sure.
Let's go back to it. So you're a discoverer, a hunter down of intrapreneurs. Okay, let's start there. What's an intrapreneur? Be clear.
Yeah. So everyone knows the term entrepreneur.
Yes.
So intrapreneur is simply someone who builds businesses within businesses. So, and that's most people, right? Like the average age of an entrepreneur is 42 when people start. So most people have had a career inside a business before they start their own thing. And very likely when they start their own thing, they're going to fail. And it's only going to be the 4th, 5th, 6th iteration of what they do that they even see some success. So it is a journey to get to that point. There are some natural born entrepreneurs, Gary Vaynerchuk selling stuff at 11 years old out of car boot sales. But most people aren't like that. So an entrepreneur is simply someone who builds businesses within a business, rallies people around a cause, takes that supporter profile, leadership profile, builder of teams, builder of products, builder of markets within someone else's entity.
So valuable. It's so valuable. It's the opposite, I think, of most, dare I say most? Yeah, most people at work. Most people go to work and they drift. They drift. It's a word from, I think it's Norman Vincent Peale in a book he wrote, Interview with the Devil. And the devil says, thing I love to do. I love to entice people just to take it easy, just to drift through life. Drift. Because then they're mine, he says. It's a wonderful book, Interview with the Devil. And you drift through life and it's just beige and it's meh and you're paid-ish. There's a Dilbert cartoon with a t-shirt and the guy says, I did nothing today and still get paid. Wow. Sometimes, yeah, it's nice to have a day like that. I don't get any like that. Neither do you because you work for yourself. You do nothing, you don't get paid.
Yeah.
But I did nothing today, I still get paid. And that's nice for a day maybe, but wow. If you're unhappy, be of service. That's one thing. If you're unhappy in life, go be of service. Do something for someone else without expecting anything in return. That's it. Problem solved. 90% of mental illnesses, I reckon, solved there. Just go be of service to someone. Get out in the sunshine and go be of service. Problem solved. But if you drift through life, drift through work, you're paid, maybe, not for long, probably, you get fired, but can't be happy. There's no joy in sitting in your hands and twiddling, or trying to twiddle your thumbs. You sit in your hands and twiddle your thumbs. Your thumb's got your arse, right? Pull your thumb out of your arse and do something. There's a metaphor I didn't realise. How then, given that you wrote this dream ICP, how do you find your dream? How do you find my dream job, Richard? How do I find my dream role, my ideal role?
Yeah. So I'll talk about that. So that playbook sounds like a very long name, right? But it's the principle of this executive job search playbook is all around a thing called a Dream 20. And it's about getting a list of 20 companies that you're going to go and target. Where that came from is that I'm part of Pavilion, and in Pavilion there's like 874 members of the on the bench community, so executives and associates who are currently in between roles or looking for their next role strategically. And everyone's lost because it's a really competitive market. There's 1,000 applications for every job. just knowing what you want to go and do when you have this very broad range of skills. You're a generalist over a 20-year career. How on earth could you niche down and be a solution to someone's problem is hard. And everyone talks about, do this in your LinkedIn profile and do this on your resume and say this in an interview. But no one's having enough of the right conversations with interesting companies. And then they get into recruitment processes that are very slow, take a huge amount of time, multiple stages, only to get to the end and realize it's not a good fit, or worse, get hired 6 months in, realize it's not a fit and get fired or want to leave. So if we can be strategic around the way that we develop a list of 20 opportunities inside companies that we're attracted to, then it's a question of, well, how do we go and prospect into those from a sales approach? So we've got our account-based marketing key account list of 20.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to build a marketing pack of value to send to those people and start to instigate conversations, rather than the traditional approach, look for jobs and then try to get the job. So we're going to look for companies who have the challenges that we love. So the ICP of the Dream 20 ICP Playbook is Ideal Challenge Profile. We're looking for the challenges that we love to solve, not things we can solve, but things that we love to do. We volunteer for them naturally. As we're doing them, time runs away. We're in flow. After we've done them, we feel energized. And we're looking for those. And if we can do that, suddenly you're in a bunch of interesting conversations, talking to people who are facing the exact challenges for whatever reason you love. It's the Mr. Muscle type job that you love. And then you're often in a competition of one, because they're not even looking at the market yet.
Beautiful. The number of salespeople, I mean, I'm in Pavilion as well, which is how we connected. And I get a fair few folk knocking on the door saying, can I have a chat? And I'm quite happy to have 20 minutes, half an hour chat with lots of people. I learn more than I've shared most of the time. But the number of varying degrees of experienced people, so from first, second jobs, all the way to various levels of execs, C-levels, whatever, who don't reckon that finding your next job is actually a sales process. And these are essentially salespeople, right? Yes, revenue leadership and stuff. Okay, fair enough. But even if you're a marketeer, you're still a salesperson. You understand the concept of a bloody funnel. You have lots at the beginning and less at the end. Why? Because you whittle it down and you talk to people in a certain way. And the account-based marketing approach is kind of fundamental to that. It's speaking to a need. We can do it when we're selling our widgets and software, but below me if it's kind of hard when it's trying to sell yourself. That's the hard one. So where do you start? Take us through some steps. Go on.
Sure. So you are right. The fundamental thing is a mindset shift. You are now the product. And you've spent 20 years in your career taking other people's products to market. So you know how to do this stuff. And it's all the same stuff that you would do for those companies and you've done successfully in your teams and you've built playbooks for. But we just have to frame it that you are now the product. And it's like, well, you could be IBM with 1 million products and hope someone buys it, but you don't have the brand name for IBM. So let's go and try and come down to a couple of very, very, very good products that solve a very, very, very big problem inside the type of businesses that you're attracted to. So it starts with that, I'm the product. And that's a challenging mindset shift. But when you realize that you are actually the solution to someone's problem, or our products are things that people spend money on to solve problems. So when you start to position yourself as a problem solver, a solution to the problem, then suddenly it becomes really clear. Now I just need to go and find people who are full of those problems and not pain. No one buys for pain. I think one of the things that's broken, my good friend Mike Morfelder over in Boston taught me this. He believes that one of the biggest problems with sales organization structure and pipeline structure today is that we teach people over that they need 3 to 4 or now even 5x pipeline. And the problem is you're filling your pipeline full of a load of opportunities that are never a good fit. The customer might have a bunch of pains that your solution technically solves. So they pass BANT. They maybe pass MEDDIC, but they're never going to buy.
Please don't.
So you're looking for initiatives. It's like they are actually committed to go and solve this problem. It's such a burning problem for them. It's preventing them from doing business, or it's risking them going out of business that they have to solve it. So they're committed to it. So if we can marry up the fact that we solve these problems and then we're finding people who are committed to solving those problems, then it's just a case of, well, how do I find the people who are feeling those problems and then connect with them in a way that I can spark a conversation? And often the best way to do that is to give value first. It's not to say, I'm the best solution to your problem because I've got this track record of solving problems for businesses just like you. It's,
which would be like a typical sales process. Hang on.
yeah, exactly.
You heretic. Excuse me while I burn you at the stake.
Yeah, exactly.
Go on.
Exactly. But you've got to think differently. Think about like how you'd want it done, right? So let's say that you had a project, which is that you were a mid-market sales organization and you were looking to move into enterprise. And someone reached out to you. What would you love? Like there's a type of information and value that if someone was bringing you about this move to up market into enterprise, you'd be like, all day I'll pay attention to that and I'll want to give it my time. What would that look like?
It would be 3 things that they've done that didn't work, that I should avoid doing, and 3 things that they've done that did.
Yeah, love it. Beautifully broken down, bite-sized chunks. So if you use that as the play for one of the playbooks, you could reach out to the CEO of that business, depending on the size, maybe a chief revenue officer, maybe a COO, whoever is the person feeling the problem, owning the P&L for that thing. You could say, hey, noticed XYZ at this company. These were the 3 things we got wrong. Would you like me to jump on a quick call with you and talk you through our experiences? Or I just wrote an article on these top 3 things. Would you like me to send you a copy?
There you go.
It never starts with like, here's my resume. It's like, hey, these are the 3 things. Or noticed you have just hired, 3 customer success managers. And in their job description, it says, really pay attention to our enterprise accounts. And you can say, when we were building those teams, the 3 things that took us 5 years to figure out were these 3. Out of those, which is most relevant? And then they go, oh, that one. And you go, fantastic. I just wrote an article on that, or it was just on a podcast about that, or I saw someone else's article about that, or I'm up for talking to you about the challenge. If you can create a peer-to-peer relationship around the challenge that you can solve from a point of experience and lived experience, suddenly you're someone that they want to talk to because you're someone that's been up the mountain they're trying to scale. Yeah. You're the Sherpa who knows the risks rather than just another person trying to pitch the fact that they are really good at climbing mountains.
Yeah. I've not only climbed the mountain that you want to climb, I broke my leg in the process. And then after healing, went back up and bloody did it again.
Yeah.
That's the supreme method. All right. So we've nailed how we're getting the conversation. We've worked out that we want to have 20 target organizations.
Yeah.
That fit this new idea of me as product who can solve problems for specific audiences. So our account-based marketing. Mm-hmm. We've identified our ideal challenge profile, which is lovely. Pitched it to the head guys, girls, and we're having conversations. Now what happens?
So I would position this mentally that you are qualifying them. So I think the thing that people do wrong is they go, right, I've found this company. Now my job is to get in. And it's like, no, have the mentality. I'm going to try and help this person solve their problem. And if it's an interesting enough problem that fits what I'm really good at, and I genuinely am the best solution for them, like I really believe I can help these people, then they would qualify for you to spend some more time with them and offer them the opportunity to maybe meet in person, maybe to do a proper discovery process, maybe to complete a scorecard. Maybe it's to bring in someone else from their team so you can get a different perspective on the problem. But you're only going to really continue to invest your time if they are someone who, through qualification, is like responding to you, they're showing some interest, they've got some appetite, and you actually believe that you can solve their pain. It's not about trying to, just for the sake of it, move them through your sales process. It's right, cool. Yeah, you've met all the criteria here against this thing. You know, if you're happy to, mutual action plan, move through to the next stage, I'd be prepared to spend the time for these reasons. Now, you might not want to for these three reasons. So tell me now.
Yeah.
And if they go, no, 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 I do, brilliant, then you're in a proper sales process.
Now, I have one challenge with that, which is that when you're in a sales process, both parties recognize that it is that. Both parties recognize it for what it is. When you're in this sort of marketing accounts, deliberate intent, going after somebody process, and you go to them with your idea of the mutual action plan, the other party is either looking for you for advice, free, consultancy, again, free if they can get it, maybe paid for, that sort of thing. You're looking for a job. You're going to them and trying to qualify them, which is a wonderful approach because it's a mental flip. And it basically says, I have all the value, I have all the power, which you do and which you do. But to get them to that next stage with the mindset of, I'm going to talk to this person with a view to potentially bringing them onto my team.
Yeah.
And you start qualifying and you start that sort of posture. There's not necessarily the reciprocal approach on the other side. So you mentioned the idea there is these are the three reasons you might want to talk to me in the future. These are the three reasons not. This is great. That's a supremely targeted ABM mutual action plan steps.
Sure.
Do you have the bit at the beginning where you say, and I'm looking for a job? At what point do you bring that in? Because that has to be the reciprocal posture from the other person. Otherwise, they're not going to actually accept the next step for what.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. I mean, I think with all those sorts of things, you just got to be upfront about it. But it's not the reason you're getting in contact with them. I think people should know you're available. So I'll give you a real life example. So I've created a role for myself with an amazing entrepreneur who taught me all the skills and all the mindset shift and helped me to unlearn a load of things to be ready to go and launch my business. And it started with a Facebook message. So I knew the guy from about 8 years before, incredible entrepreneur called Steve Bolton. And after leaving a company through 12 years, through redundancy after 12 years, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I knew I didn't know how. So I sent him a Facebook message saying, Steve, just want you to know, I've left this company. I am available. My dream is to start a business with you one day, but I'd just love to catch up and hear how you're getting on. Are you up for it? We met the next day for lunch. So he knew straight away that I was available, but I wasn't saying, I want a job in your business. It was like, I would love one day to do this thing, but let's catch up, you know? And if I didn't have the relationship with him, and so it wasn't a case of just catching up, you can just be really clear, like, I'm available, but the reason I'm talking to you isn't because I'm like looking to go and get a job. You probably don't even have a rec right now in your business. It's not even there. But if you're spending money on solving this problem in a different way, and I can help you to stop wasting that money, and that might be that I just give you some advice so you can just make some better decisions. It might be that I refer you through to someone who can solve that in a better way. Or maybe I am a solution to that problem in whatever that could be. It could be a fractional gig. It could be an interim gig. It could be a consulting gig. It could be just some advice, or it could be a partnership in some capacity.
Yeah.
That's a nice way of positioning it, because the fact is, remember, what we're talking about is not people who have a bunch of challenges. It's they are committed to solving this problem. Like you say, they've probably broken their leg. They have spent money on this. They've invested money on this. They're pinning their future and the expectations of their team and their investors and themselves to achieving this outcome. It's just about where they spend resources to solve the problem. And I'm guessing this problem's going to be quite big if they're prepared to invest the time to talk to you about it. Would hiring you on however many £100, £1,000 be worth achieving this multi-million pound uplift and to stop spending all of this money in the wrong way? Because the fact is, this is why you're not looking for pain, because people don't spend money on pain. They live with pain for years. You know, everyone has problems with their shoulders and backs and doesn't do anything until they can't walk. And you're looking for the people who are going, yeah, we literally, we can't walk.
I can't
we
get
need
out
some
of
help.
bed.
So that's the shift. be upfront for sure, but it's not like, here's my CV. It's, I'm available and I'd love to talk to you.
Excellent. Excellent. And we go into that with the posture of service, which is kind of
100%, yeah.
my driver. It's I mean, I talk all about servant leadership. I talk about sales as service, the psychology of service, the power of service, the power of gratitude, the power of that. This mindset shift of moving your selfish, egotistical self out from the center of your universe and moving the other person in.
Yeah.
Makes you approach everything from a posture, well, it's a posture of love, actually, rather than fear. It's of abundance rather than of scarcity. It's of service rather than expectation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Adam Grant, right? The book Give and Get. Givers achieve much more than people who are out to get something.
Yeah.
So I think if you go into life with a giving mentality, plant as many seeds as possible, help as many people as possible, good things will come back to you. And if you go in with that mentality, I'm just trying to find people that I can help. And if that means my advice is, here's some stuff you shouldn't do because I made the mistake, that's value. And then maybe it'll be a week later, maybe it'll be 5 years later, maybe it will never happen. But they might say when someone else is facing that problem, hey, I know a really good person that you should talk to. Or I remember someone who was trying to help me with that thing a while ago. I now trust them. I'll come back and just pick up the conversation. And it takes a long time to build those sorts of relationships with people, but it always starts from I'm here to try and help and share some advice because we're all just trying to figure this stuff out, right?
Yeah, well, it's the journey through life is life itself. It's not the destination. The destination is death. Let's not go there quite too soon. Thank you. Life before death.
Sure.
So yeah, and the other thing that I think, and I believe you mentioned it in the 20 ICP Playbook, Dream 20 ICP Playbook, is when you need to start. So the minute you decide you need a new job, that's when you need to start building your network and your process and all this. No. It's 10 years before that,
Sure.
right? There's a lovely one. It's attributed to Napoleon, and he's walking through France somewhere on some boulevard, and he says, I'm not going to do the French accent this time either. He's walking down the boulevard, and he says to his generals, my soldiers marching down here will need shade. Plant some trees. We need trees. And the generals say, he's off again. Mr. Napoleon, Emperor, sir, that'll take 20 years or a long time to grow. And he says, yes, so start now. So your network, this posture of service, these seeds that you sow, you want some of them to fall on fallow ground. Some of them will fall on the path. Some of them will be eaten by the birds. Okay. You want them to be cast from the minute you have the idea. So if you listen to this right now, go start. Start right now, because you'll never know. The last thing you want to be doing is knocking on somebody's door when you're desperately in need of income. You want to be doing it now when you are, capable, thoughtful, relaxed, valuable. So
100%. The law of the sower and the reaper, right?
Yes. That is exactly that. That is exactly that. So cast your seeds where you may. Cast your seeds where you may. That's it. If I gave you a giant marker pen and 10,000 billboards cast all around the world, what would you write on them?
So one message that's going to be 10,000 places for people to pick up, right?
Yeah.
It's a good question. There's so many things that you could say to someone. What's going to make someone actually stop and think? I think the big thing, like this whole living with pain, is that the people who are living with the pain of like not being fulfilled. So for example, if we're talking from the perspective of a job search, people who are not in their ideal role, in a good environment, full of the challenges and activities that they love every day, they're postponing doing things at work, procrastinating. When they're doing their work, time drains. And after they finish, they feel drained. I would say if you're feeling at all like that, just get out. Get out. Go into an environment where you can be successful. So if you're living in a place where you just don't have that excitement, you're not in flow, life is too short to stay. It's only going to get worse. But get out. So whether you could write that succinctly in a message, maybe it's if you're not in flow, get out. Because I think that life is far too short. I spent 12 years in a business and I had an amazing run. I was very lucky to be in a business where I grew and had an opportunity to develop in my career. But the last year was tough. And I wish I'd left after 11 rather than 12 years. But looking back at the sort of 12-year innings and saying it was pretty much overall successful. But so many people that I speak to, when you ask them how they are, they go, yeah, not bad. All right. How's work? Yeah, same old. What's happened? Not much. And they're bound to this thing because it pays their bills. It gives them the certainty they're looking for.
The drift.
But you need that fire in your eyes. You need that love for work. And I think love can be work if it's full of the challenges that you most enjoy.
Yeah. And these are all deliberate choices we can make. I mean, I've got 2 young kids. I have a mortgage to pay. I have, massive bills because they swim and eat so much food. It's not true. But the balance is, am I being the best father and best husband if I'm not happy at doing what I'm doing? In some cases, you just have to provide. Shut the hell up, dig in, get on with the job. A lot of the time, you have to do that. But when you have the opportunity, when you have the drive, the energy, the motivation, when you have that moment, that perfect moment in time comes anywhere near you, you grab it. Grab it, absolutely. I like that. It's a good billboard message. How can people find you and how can you help them?
So what I think would be really useful is if we put in the show notes of this podcast a link to the Dream 20 ICP Playbook.
It will be there.
So that would be perfect because then it's like, go and read about some of the mindset and the experiences that executives that I've been working with have been having to see if you empathize with those and you feel the same. And then it will give you a bit of a 10-step program or a playbook that you can follow to start getting some results. And then LinkedIn is definitely the best place. I was going to say prolific, but it sounded quite arrogant, but I'm definitely quite present.
You're certainly present.
So if anyone wants to connect and shoot me a message, I'd be very happy to have a conversation.
Richard Washington, founder of TIC Talent and author of the Dream 20 ICP Playbook, 10 steps to creating and finding your next ideal role. Thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Thank you, Paul.